Hello, hello, everybody. This is Stephen Davis, aka the MAGA Hulk, and this is Turning Point Faith. And I have the wonderful, the amazing, the amazingly amazing Victor Marx and Scout. Let's go. Goodness gracious, how you doing today?
Doing great. Steve.
Yeah.
Glad to be here, brother.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And hell, how you doing, Scout? Would you like to give a little sound bite?
You'll dialed in.
Well, let me give an introduction to this amazing man right here. Victor Marx is a high-risk humanitarian with successful missions to Iraq, Syria, North Africa, and Southeast Asia, with many times in non-permissive and high-threat environments, helping orphans and widows. Victor Marx has helped spread the message of Christ, which is fantastic, by the way, to thousands of people. And with the work of his team, All Things Possible, has helped reduce and provide comfort to thousands of trafficked humans around the world. Victor Marx is truly a man of God. Yes, indeed. That is forwarding the gospel of Christ every day. Victor is a father of 5. Let's go.
Sir.
Come on now.
Sir.
Busy.
Practice
yes,
a lot to get them ones.
A father of 5 and a husband to the fantastic Eileen Marx. Yes, indeed. Once again, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
How you doing?
We're doing good.
Yeah.
Enjoying our time here
Man.
at Turning Point. And as always, love seeing what y'all are doing here.
Well, we love to do it. And with your help, we're going to continue to spread the message far and wide.
Yeah.
So let's get started. I want to start with, let's get to basics. Let's start with your childhood.
Okay.
Express to us what went on in your childhood, because you had quite a tumultuous childhood, to say the least.
Let me put her down for a second.
Yes, indeed.
What?
She's a good girl. You better believe it. I'm in safe hands all around.
I think my childhood, although it's unique in some ways, it's commonplace when we talk about kids who are raised in unstable environments, or dysfunction, or split parents. Yeah. And my mother and dad didn't make it. Here's the reality: not all marriages do, but I tell people, godly people should. A broken marriage doesn't constitute that you should stop following or walking with the Lord. Right. So if you're going through that or struggling, keep your eyes on the Lord. Mm-hmm. Don't use that as a justification to let the enemy, crush your faith. Yeah. But with my mom and dad, they, I think that the challenge for them, they were young. They were, I think my mother got married at 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't have faith. Mm-hmm. They had a religion, but they didn't have faith. My dad was a former Navy and a boxer and bouncer, and they both had sordid backgrounds. Mm-hmm. But he didn't claim me when my mom was pregnant for me.
My goodness.
So that's kind of how it started. And so they didn't make it. I was the 4th kid out of their union. Mm-hmm. They were busted up before I was born. Oh. So, I've heard people say, so you're an illegitimate kid? And I say, there's no such a thing. No, there's illegitimate parents.
That's it.
But not kids.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people come from that. We just had Father's Day.
Yes, sir.
So we were here at Dream Center, City City Church, speaking. And I'll say this. Father's Day is hard for a lot of people. Yeah. Because they didn't have a dad there.
You got it.
And one thing I said, I'll say it here, the biggest threat to America is not ISIS, mm-hmm. not terrorists we face. Mm-hmm. It's the lack of men to be the dads and fathers they should be. And
I'm going to need you to preach.
Right? We see the results of it. So my father fell into that category, didn't claim me, and ended up, he went down some very dark paths of being a drug dealer and a pimp. Yeah. And my mother, she married 6 times. I went to 14 schools, lived in 17 houses, and I ended up starting drugs in the 6th grade.
Oh, goodness.
Wasn't trying to be cool.
Right.
Just, I had so much pain.
Escape the pain,
yeah. Because in the unstable environments I was in, I unfortunately was a victim of a pedophile. And I was sexually abused physically, and I was tortured and then left for dead, ultimately in a commercial cooler. So the that resulted in 123 visits to a trauma specialist.
Goodness
Yeah,
gracious.
so I've been on Depakote, Debakine, Prozac, Zoloft, lithium, Buspar.
And of course, they just throw you on all the medications.
Yeah, and I'm all for medication short term if they help.
Yeah.
But I warn people, be careful of living to the label that a doctor places on you,
Come on.
or people,
Come on.
or psychologists, because the equation can be changed with God. And that's the name of our ministry. With God, all things are possible.
Yeah.
So I struggled for years, and but even when somebody's struggling and they're on their journey, God's not forgotten about you. And I would just tell you that there's nothing you can do that'll make God disappointed in you or angry at you. He loves you, and He knows when you're trying to figure it all out, that He just wants to put you in that bubble of grace and bring you to a place of ultimately freedom. And that's what our ministry and our organization is about. That's the context of why, we help set people free physically, and then ultimately emotionally and spiritually.
Absolutely.
That's what people need.
That's incredible. I mean, especially with the trauma that you've experienced.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that are going through such things, going through this trauma, going through abuse
Right.
of all different varying sorts. And it's absolutely astounding that these people, and they're going through it and they don't know where to turn. It's an unfortunate aspect when we look at it, because it's like you can turn always to Christ.
Yeah.
You can always come home. God loves you, and He will accept you and take you broken and put you back together again.
Yeah. I used to remember when I was really struggling, that little children's, poem about Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
Come on now.
Had a great fall.
Yes, sir.
All the king's horses and his men, they couldn't put them back together. But God
You better
can.
believe it.
And trust me, folks, when I tell you, when you hear a psychiatrist tell you you will never function again because of the level of abuse and torture. Wow. I mean, I've had more than one say that to me. And I remember thinking, well, the reality for me is I've never fully functioned, and laugh. I use sarcasm as a means. But believe me, there are people in the medical field that shouldn't be.
Yes, sir.
One night I called a guy. He was my attending psychiatrist, and I was struggling. And it was back in the beeper days.
I remember that.
Right? Good old days. And you either somebody important or a drug dealer if you were attached to one of those. So
this is true.
Yeah, I full on call this guy. He gets paid. He calls me back. This was the first thing he said, Stephen. He goes, "Do you know what time it is?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's about midnight." He goes, "Just come into my office tomorrow. We'll sort this out." And then click. I mean, and I
Wow.
literally was like,
wow.
Yeah. And this was a psychiatrist that shouldn't have been in the field. So I went to the office. I was in his office before him. His nurses and staff, they let me in. When he came in, he was kind of shocked. He's like, "Oh, you're here already." I said, "You told me to.
Right.
Let's work this out." So he sits down, and the way the office was situated, I'm actually sitting by the door. And he goes, he grabs his little clipboard and goes, "Well, how do you feel this morning?" I said, "Well, doctor, how do you feel?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "How does it feel being in a small quartered room with a man who can kill you?"
Ooh.
And
wow.
he stopped.
I have your attention now, huh?
Yeah. He said, to you. And he looked at the phone. I said, "You would never be able to make a call." And he looked at the door.
Goodness.
I said, "That ain't going to happen." And then he started shaking and sweating. His breathing was labored. I saw it all.
Goodness.
And he goes, do you feel like killing me? I said, no. I just want to see how you responded of being uncomfortable in your time of need.
Ooh.
Just like you did me last night.
Ooh.
So he
Slow burn.
Yeah.
Slow
He
burn.
had to excuse himself. Never came back in. The nurse came in.
No kidding.
She actually kind of had a smile on her face. So I think it kind of is an indicator of what a jerk he was to work for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she said, the doctor's going to have to reschedule. I said, I'm sure he is.
I
And
bet.
you may need to get him a pair of pants.
And change underwear.
Yeah, all of it. And so I left. He never saw me again. We switched. But that's why I tell people, sometimes a doctor will give you a label.
Yeah.
Simply because they don't understand faith.
True.
And I appreciate good people in the mental health field who understand both the psychological aspects, the chemical imbalances, but the effects of trauma.
True.
And this is what I would say. Most people who struggle, it's not the physical pain that they struggle with. I lost 40% of my hamstring, other, 2 surgeries, something different. And it inconveniences me, but I will tell people this. The psychological aspects of being tortured are far worse. Even if, no matter how long, and people know what, they've had to live with a narcissist or a crazy person, whatever. So this is what I tell people. You bring lies from your past into your future.
Yes, sir.
And that typically is what starts to define a person of who they are. And the worst lies are those what I call lies based in reality. And let me explain this to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me explain this. So I was being held underwater by my stepfather as a kid, and when I woke up, he's breathing into me. He's resuscitating me, and I'll never forget. It was a bathroom floor because he was holding me down in a tub, and I come to. He looks at me right in my eyes, and the first thing he says is, "Boy, don't you ever forget, I'm the one that gives you life."
Goodness.
So obviously it's a lie, but it's based on reality because he was holding me under. He could have killed me, but he resuscitated me. So I lived with this fear that he actually controlled my life. That's one. Another one was I was born with a concave chest, and so I was pinned down on these crates in a barn one summer, and he'd take my shirt off. He poured water into this little hole in my chest, and he took a cattle prod. For those of you who don't know, it's a stick with it's a big old taser. That's the best way to describe it for moving cattle.
Yeah.
And he put the tip of it as I'm laying down. I see it coming. He puts the tip in it, and then he hit it, and it makes your body arch up and stiff. You're being tased by something not meant, except for a huge animal.
Yeah.
Now, when
you
he
were a kid.
I was a kid. So when he released it, contrary to what most people would think, if you're getting shocked, if a person releases it, you actually don't take a breath in because you're stiff. Air actually comes out because you see it coming. You take a breath in, you're tense. So when it's released, air comes out first.
Yeah.
And then you take a breath. This is what he would say, Stephen. He would tell me, "Boy, do you know what that sound is coming out of you? The air." And of course, I can't say anything. He goes, "It's the sound of hope leaving your body." So I don't like to glorify darkness or evil, but I tell enough, and believe me, I never started telling my story till I was in my 40s.
Oh, no kidding.
Nobody needed to know.
Right.
And I was like, "There's no way but God did such a healing thing in my life, and when he invests in us, he does want to return, And I tell folks listening, make sure you're called to tell people your story,
Yeah.
because otherwise you'll feel greater insecurity.
Yeah.
People won't understand. How do they wrap their mind around certain things that's happened?
Right.
But if he calls you to say it to certain people or
Yeah.
at certain times or to write it down, then do it. But what I want folks to listen, because there are people listening right now that are, one, they're bothered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's making them remember certain things. And the thing I hear oftentimes people tell me is, well, I was never tortured. My story is not bad like yours. And I go, whoa, wait. Pain is relative.
Yep.
If I throat punch you right now, you're gonna feel pain.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's your pain, and then I'd hate to be thrown through a wall by you. I
wouldn't dare. Okay, trust me. I've seen you in that.
but it's this idea of if I burn you, that's not as bad as me being. And I go, wait a minute, pain in the moment, it's all equal.
You got it.
The consequences are different.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you torch me, I'm gonna have skin grafts that need to be done. So the consequence versus a burn. But it's the same pain in the moment.
Yes.
So I tell people, you may have a dad that may have been present in your life, but just wasn't there, even though he's physically there. Or he could have looked at you and said, boy, do something with your life.
Yeah.
You ain't never going to be nothing. That's what I would call a father wound. It doesn't take a cattle prod being shoved in. So these emotional pains that are based in lies
Come on.
are what you have to root out in order to live free. And you know what oftentimes happens is when people enter into marriages, you start finding out the lies you've lived.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what's great when there's holy unions, because a spouse who loves the Lord can help a person get through lies that they believed. And
speak.
My wife, bouquet to her always. I tell folks, women may, this is how we joke, women may have bought me, but they will return me real quick to customer service with a receipt and said, hey, this one's broke.
I want an exchange.
I hope it's on a warranty. And my wife, she ripped up the receipt.
It's a good woman.
She ripped up the receipt.
Yeah.
And divorce was never an option.
Good.
Murder, but not divorce. So,
Till death do us part.
Yeah, it's like, and she has a dog like mine. I remember walking in the room when she first got that dog, and that dog picked his head up and looked over. I was like, hey, honey, your dog. She's like, I said, I'm going to go outside for a minute.
I'll be right back. Yeah. Smart man.
Yeah, so, you know what? And if you're single, don't give up hope and don't believe the lie that you're not worthy of marriage.
Right.
That if someone ever really knew your craziness, hey, look, someone needs to know your craziness.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being accepted for who you are. Hey, this is me. This is all of me. And they will help you get through lies. There's a movie on our life story, my wife and I, and people can watch it. I think it's streaming on YouTube, 15 different languages. So watch it. But there's a scene where I never forget. I snapped at a moment. I just snapped, ripped my clothes off, ran into the shower, turned it on, and I remember I was flashbacking my stepfather trying to come and kill me.
Yeah.
And I'm rocking back and forth. And I just kept saying, don't let him kill me, don't let him kill me. Felt like a kid again. And my bride, she comes into there. She sees me. She just opens the shower door, fully clothed. She steps in. She kneels down and she grabs me.
Come on.
And she rocked with me.
Come on.
And she just cried with me.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, and those listening and watching, that was one of the most powerful moments of me knowing that God came down through my wife and put his arms around me and said, I love you and I'm here with you in this pain. I'm not judging you. I'm with you. And that's what I think many couples miss. You get married, you get aggravated by your spouse. Yeah. Normal. But when God's trying to do a work in their life to heal them, to bring them to the next level, to get them level, God can use you. God can use you, and he wants to use you to remind them, hey, God loves you. He's here with you. You can get through this. Yeah. So so many people want to make a permanent decision based on a temporary problem and kill themselves. And I've been there, folks. I've been there with a gun in my mouth. I know what it's like to be in a hospital, the observation room, which, by the way, there were no pads on the walls. It's just all concrete. I want to just
correct the record for that.
Yeah, there wasn't
no padded room.
Yeah,
huh?
There was no padded room.
Goodness gracious.
Okay.
They didn't take too much care.
Yeah, it was Hawaii, but the brothers.
Brother.
But I just say in those moments of what you feel like is despair, and the reason why I wanted to end my life, because I thought I'm bringing so much pain to my wife, my children. I don't want them to hurt anymore. They don't deserve to see me so broken and not functioning. It's still alive from the pit of hell.
Yes.
Because guess what? I have 5 children that are some of the most compassionate kids. 3 are adults, 2 are teenagers, 4 are good looking, 1, I don't. The ugly one is
going to grow up to be a beautiful swan.
Oh,
huh?
man, no, my wife is in the other room. Honey, I'm joking. They
Correct
all
the record.
They all beautiful. Everybody knows they all beautiful. One got my IQ. No, they're all beautiful, and they're smart.
And the truth comes out.
They're all smart.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Strong back, weak mind. That one, no. But I'll tell you, what I feared worse than anything is, that my kids would disrespect me or be embarrassed of me because they're like, why doesn't Dad work right? Is the contrary. They're the most compassionate, loving, to the point where 3 of our kids went with us to Iraq one summer. In Iraq, during fighting, stayed at our safe house, and when we would do the deal and go get kids and bring them out of combat areas, and their parents are new orphans, parents are dead on the ground. Here's a kid that made it. Nobody knows their name. We bring them back to our safe house. It was our kids that would be washing them, pulling lice out of their hair, feeding them, holding them when they're crying. And so I'll just tell you, parent or person, don't be afraid to marry based on if you're so scared that they really knew you. You want to be known.
Yes.
Because there's nothing can be matched to being loved truly unconditionally when somebody knows you and they still love you. That's the beautiful thing. Not all the filters of social media.
You got
of
it.
Instagram.
You got it.
You're taking a picture or video, but you cleaned everything up. It's like, just pan to the left. Pan to the look right here. This is what life is about.
No.
And then the other thing is, don't be afraid of your children disrespecting you or not understanding. God will increase their capacity to love, to understand when people hurt. And then crazy thoughts don't make you crazy. I just need to tell somebody that.
Expound on that. Yes, sir.
The battlefield is in the mind.
Yes, sir.
A friend of mine, when we were over there, gets shot. Boom. And he wraps it. And I'm telling him, dude, you better go in. And, he's like, I'll just take some, penicillin right now, whatever, to keep it from getting infected. But it went through and through. That didn't bother him. And in the area of our mind, that's the biggest battlefield. It's and that's where the enemy of our soul attacks us.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes his whispers are way louder
Yeah.
than the shouts.
Yeah.
And if you believe a lie long enough, it will become your truth.
Speak.
And then you will never reach the full potential that God's created you for. You'll live in insecurity. You'll doubt even God's word, because that's what Satan did. He attacked the word of God. He didn't attack Adam and Eve. He attacked the word of God, where he's like saying, did God really say that?
Right.
Which, by the way, on that note, Adam, where was he at? Where was, if
He wasn't next to his wife, is what he
if
wasn't.
some dude was talking to your woman,
Let's go. I'm
where
right
are you?
there.
Where are you?
Right there. Present,
Right?
right here,
Right?
present and
Excuse me?
ready and available.
Can I help?
Can I help you, sir?
Can I help you out?
Come on.
And I'll tell you what.
He wasn't doing his husbandly duty.
No, he was not. He may have been gaming or something. I don't know. Early game. It's
the original, you know.
The original, old school. Yeah, having two little lizards.
Gladiator match.
Yeah, I just tell you, men are made to protect.
Yes, sir.
Provide, and provide a place of safety. Adam should have been there for Eve.
Yes, sir.
And if he would have been doing his job, I told my wife, if that was me, I think God would have, my Cajun self, I would have made you a pair of boots, a matching belt, and a handbag out of
You
that
better
snake.
believe out of that snake. Yes, sir.
Watch this, honey.
I got you. Taking care of.
Merry early Christmas. So
Good man.
Yeah, I you know, Adam and Eve, it was their mind.
Yeah.
Her mind was attacked by questioning God's word. So,
Yes, sir.
so just side note, because you're a big old drink of water, man.
Well, thank you very much. I'll take that glass,
you-
especially coming from you.
Yeah, you tell me the protein you're on, I'll switch tomorrow.
Let's go.
And so I for the longest time I developed my speed.
Yes, sir.
And I stayed a certain weight, right? But I remember as a kid being told, you ain't never gonna be, you're not gonna.
Oh, wow.
And there's two things I tell people that I helped overcome a lie. One is, you know, I lived with this mindset. I'll always be small, insignificant.
yeah.
I'm not gonna,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So you live small.
Yeah.
I remember I had a friend. Do you remember American Gladiators?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
So Malibu.
Okay.
Yeah, is a friend of mine. He traveled. We used to do stuff.
Good
I remember
times.
we were working out, and he's like, "Your tie-ins, man, you can be a lot bigger." And I said, "Well, my adult weight is 181.
Mhm.
This is who I am. I use it for speed,
Yes, indeed.
and I'm comfortable with it." He's like, "No, you can put on weight and still be fast." And he kept pushing me. He's like, I was trying to. Anyway, I sit here now. I'm 219
Let's go.
at about 12%,
Let's go.
13% body fat, and it was him telling me.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like he's like, Victor, you're believing a lie
Yes, sir.
that you can't be, and it actually it changed my mindset. So there's some of you out there thinking you're not smart enough, you'll never get fit. You're incapable of that job.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a great parent. You can't make more money than you do. That's all a lie.
All lies.
You compare that and go, God, what did you make and create me to be? So my wife and I, my wife, that woman, she's got her six pack.
Come
and
on now.
I'm like, honey, whoa.
Okay.
Hey,
Wash some clothes on those abs.
now,
Come on.
Watch out. Watch out. I'm gonna have another baby come at you.
That just might
Even
happen.
though we're
Number
grandparents.
6.
Rawr. And but the discipline that we believe in, functional fitness, and
Yes,
what we
sir.
call being mission ready, more Christians should take that serious.
Yes.
Because God uses prepared vessels.
Yes.
And it's funny because the work we do, I get guys like, hey man, I'm about 40 pounds overweight. I don't know how to shoot.
Yep.
But I can shoot a bow. I'll come help you. I'm like, brother, I appreciate you. Well, your heart. But
But,
yeah, Get
about that.
Get that heart. Get that heart.
In operational function.
Yeah, I don't want you stepping off a plane in Iraq.
And then we're out.
Yeah, it's like, brother, didn't
Medevac.
make it. So, yeah, I just say, folks, take that serious.
Yes.
The second thing is, everybody loves the gun disarm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
fantastic.
Hundreds of millions of views, and
yes.
And I've done it so many times. I literally have hand issues because of tens of thousands of times. Right. So people are like, dude, I go, you better pay me some money if you want me to play like a monkey with cymbals. Yeah, make the ministry happy, okay? Otherwise, watch the videos.
Yes.
But very few people ask me, why did you get that fast?
Come on.
What?
That's good.
Because
what's the purpose? Yeah. Well, what made you have to do that?
You're holding a world record still for 1 and 2 gun disarm.
Woo!
They make memes about the memes on it.
Woo!
It's
getting hot.
Right?
Cool them down.
Hannah, wait a minute. Don't mean to be turning the heat on, but it's happening.
Yes, indeed. It's hot.
But I tell people, I go, the first video ever shot of that was my wife and me in a youth prison in California.
Okay.
And had a gang member step up, put a training weapon on me, the hammer back, finger on the trigger, and he's like, and my wife's recording it on a flip phone.
Fantastic. Oh, flip phone. Yes,
yeah.
Indeed.
We're dating ourselves, and
a little bit.
I said, hey man, if I can get that gun from you, will you and all your buddies listen to me?
Fantastic. Come on.
And he's laughing. He's like, you ain't getting this gun. I snatched it from him before he could pull the trigger with the hammer back, pulled the magazine out, and was pointing him back at him in 0.8 of a second. And he literally pulled the trigger in the air. He pulled the trigger in the air, and he was like, and that led us to what we could do. But the reason why I do it, is because my stepfather put me in a chair at 7 years old and put a pistol on my head with the hammer back and his finger on the trigger, and he would tap me to the side of my head, and he goes, boy, if you ever tell anybody what I've done, I'll blow your brains out, and I'll tell the police you found my pistol and shot yourself. That's the reason why, because as a kid, I said, one day, I'm going to be so fast, no one will ever be able to put a gun in my head again.
See, it's the trauma that we go through and we experience, and we use that negativity. There's positive and negative energy, and we use those energies to fuel us, to achieve success, to enhance our bodies, to whatever have you, especially when it comes to bodybuilding. There's a lot of people who were skinny like me, were told, you will never be big, you are so skinny, you are so, and use that negativity.
Let me prove you wrong.
Let me prove you wrong.
Thanks for the motivation.
Absolutely, and I love how you use that and harness this negativity to be able to enhance yourself, and not only do that, to be able to enhance the lives of others.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, all things possible. Tell me about that organization, because what you do, what your organization does, and your wife with you and Scout, it is amazing. Tell us about that.
Thanks. I tried to fit into the church early on.
Yes, sir.
As a pastor.
Okay.
Assistant pastor. Didn't work out great.
Okay. Okay.
A guy had come in for counseling, and he had hit his daughter. He had hit his daughter and bounced her off a wall. So within a few minutes of me knowing all this, and he's saying, can you please reconcile me to my wife? And he's on crack, and he bounced his toddler off a wall. I'll never forget, I looked at him, and he goes, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me. But he wasn't repentive. He just wanted to get, I said, well, and it was funny because he made the mistake by saying, I don't know what's wrong. Maybe I should get beat on.
Maybe I can oblige.
Yeah, I said, I'm not great at a lot of things, but conflict, I'm comfortable
Pretty
in.
good at it.
So I I quickly pinned him on the ground and I'm hurting his feelings.
A little justice.
So the door slams open. There's another pastor because he's screaming. He's like, "Hey, Victor, come here." And he says, "Victor, we don't actually hit people when they come in for counsel." I'm like, I know. He asked for it. So legally, we're good.
Yes.
So the church quickly just said, "I think you should expand your giftedness and calling to ministry somewhere else." And that's ultimately for martial arts to God let me see well-run ministry with Dr. Dobson.
Yes, sir.
He launched us into reaching kids who were incarcerated,
Yes, sir.
traumatized, and sharing my story. And then the ministry grew and expanded to where now, this year, I mean, we have safe houses in multiple countries. We operate even in an ISIS confinement camp in Syria weekly. And then we hunt pedophiles who hurt children because children should be protected,
Yes.
saved, and bad guys
Yes.
should be made to pay a price. And the consequences are different depending on what country you're in, but we pursue justice. And then here in the U.S., we do the same.
Yes, sir.
And we work really well with law enforcement from state to federal. And then, I share my story. We share the gospel. We're on social media platforms. Last year, we reached over 1 billion people.
Come on.
And that's analytics.
Come on.
It's analytics, man.
Come on now.
I don't know how it's done, but
to
we're
God
just,
be the glory. Let's go.
Yeah. For someone who was raised in a trailer
Yes, sir.
as a kid, who struggled in school, was slow of mind, not good with wit.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody would pump me up verbally, I'd be on the way home, and I'd think of a comeback. I go, oh,
I could have got
whoa.
him next time.
Oh,
Next
you wait.
time.
You wait.
Yeah.
And yet God had a calling on my life. And you know what? I did have people speak into my life as a kid growing up. Christians God would use.
There we go.
And very specific a couple of times, and it's in the book. And I'll send people a copy of my book free. But people, I remember a prophecy from two different people in two different states and two different times of my life, but they said, God's going to use you.
Come on.
To be a mighty man.
Come on.
To keep people from destroying themselves.
Yes, sir.
By being a rod of love. So God's going to use you in a mighty way as a mighty man of God to keep people from destroying themselves by being a rod of love.
Yes, sir.
And we've seen it, whether we're in Muslim countries here in the U.S., Southeast Asia, Colombia, south of the border. And believe me, one of the best things about our organization and ministry are the people with us.
Come on.
Starting with my wife.
Yeah.
My bride, man, she is, brother.
Ride or die.
Brother. The other day, she puts me to bed. She's like, honey, your soul's tired.
Yes, sir.
Get in bed.
Come on.
Turn that phone off.
Yes, sir.
Operations, everybody has
She
it.
knows what's best. She knows what she's
all
talking
right,
about.
I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
She gets in the bed, reaches down on the side of her bed, pulls out a blow dart gun, puts a dart in it. I recognize there's a target across the room, and she goes,
Boop.
and then
Accurate.
she does it again. Yeah. She's grouping this thing in a head side, and I'm like, hey.
Blow dart.
Hey, babe, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm training. And I know exactly what she means because of, things in other places. So I know what she means.
Indeed.
She's training.
Yes.
And then, but I was like, man, I didn't know whether to be terrified or turned on or a mixture of
Or
both.
a little bit of both.
I was like, holy, oh my.
My.
So,
I'm supposed to be going to bed.
Yes. My heart rate's up right
now.
now.
I'm racing right now.
Oy.
Goodness
So,
gracious.
yeah, I thank God for her,
Yeah.
who will lock arms, and she has gone anywhere and everywhere
Yes.
without, there are times she's told me, go get it, babe. She goes, and I'm like, honey, are you okay in case I don't come back from this mission?
Right.
And I remember asking her one time, are you okay with being a widow for the cause of the gospel? Because that's our highest calling, to get the gospel out.
Yes.
She goes, I'd rather be a widow than married to a coward.
Woo!
I'm like,
Again, it got hot in
I'm
here.
like, I think
Woo!
this woman's got Spartan blood in her.
Yes, indeed.
Hey,
Come
so,
back on
yeah.
your shield or
Ye-
not at all.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
indeed.
exactly it. So, man,
Goodness.
if you're bummed that your wife's telling you to take out the garbage, wait till she says, go face ISIS
Yeah,
and get them
I
women
think you
and
got
children.
it easy.
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, see, and we're running out of time here. I would love to continue this conversation because this is amazing. Goodness gracious. But last question, let me get a little plug here. Where can people follow you? Where can people support your missions and provide resources to your organization? Because that's necessary.
Thank you. Go to Victor Marx, that's marxwithanx.com, and that's where they'll find all the information about it, all the different lanes that we run in, and we thank God for it.
Victor Marx, come on now. This guy is an amazing man of God. This guy is what it's about. We need more people, more men standing up, more men being resolute, standing on the courage of their convictions, and standing with God. Victor, it is more than a pleasure. Thank you so much for gracing us with your pleasure.
Thank you for your friendship, brother.
Always my pleasure.
Yeah.
This is a guy to look up to. Yes, indeed. This is Stephen Davis, a.k.a. the MAGA Hulk with Turning Point Faith, signing off.